So it's Heritage Day here in South Africa, and I am going to be speaking to Q, who has got some thoughts to share with us about ancestral knowledge and what it is like to be a San young person in South Africa in the education system. Welcome, Q. Thanks so much for making the time to be with us today.
Avedis, thank you very much for having me here.
Wonderful. So I was just wondering, Q, you know, there's been a lot of recent lip service given to including traditional information in curriculums in schools. I'm wondering, what are your thoughts about this?
Yes, at the moment we are facing, how can I say, you can't say being marginalized in education. We don't have a margin in that field of education in South Africa. And as indigenous people, we are forced not to speak our language by being, left out on the line. And to date, one of the oldest languages in the San tradition still doesn't have its language in a primary school or a creche or any tertiary level. They don't even have application forms in their language for grants or child grants or even your basic knowledge of who's voting. So when you look at the children today in our community, we're practically forced to speak Afrikaans, not even English. And when you look at the system our schooling is in, I mean, we just allowed certain schools to teach Mandarin in our country, and that to us is a heavy blow as indigenous people. And up and coming indigenous groups, they're gonna be falling in line to ask questions like, when do I speak my language? We've been learning an Afrikaans nursery rhyme, and that same nursery rhyme could be translated into one of my languages very easily. And this is the type of activity children need to know, because we are truly losing our language due to the South African education system excluding us from any form of translation.
Sure. And apart from actually the language, which I think is hugely important, what do you think is the experience of a young person from the San tradition in terms of the dignity, the messages that they're getting about the dignity and importance of their heritage at this point?
Look at it this way. This is Heritage Month, South Africa. And when you say dignity, we don't have that. We, our own people, wears other tribes' colors and their headbands in solidarity. We want to be part of it. But no one else wears what we wear. Is it because we've been skinned? Is it because we are told we don't exist or we're extinct? But these children questions a lot because they know who they are. They are San. And to them, that is something totally undignified. We don't even get buried the way we're supposed to get buried. We don't give birth the way we're supposed to.
I'm wondering if we should actually turn off the video, both of us, because it might save bandwidth, yeah? Because everybody's met you visually now. Let's switch off our videos. So interestingly, when we look at the ways that young people learn traditionally before school came along, we always find that it's by being embedded in the community, by having a lot of access to what the adults are doing, by being included, by being able to help the adults ask questions and observe. Whereas now with the schooling system that we have now, you know, young people are warehoused away from all of that. How important do you think it is to make time for that more traditional way of immersed learning through life?
We need to do that and go back to it as soon as possible. We have children today that is going into school and they're not learning anything, they're learning fears. As a San child, you hunt with the elders. You will plant and gather with the elders. And that is them saving time teaching you. Sitting still in one place. An animal don't do it, why should we do it?
Yeah.
Now, when you look at the communities today, they are animaling their children. They're herding them up in boxes, thinking that these children are learning. They can't even climb a tree within the school because the school's rule says you may not climb a tree. They want to go barefoot to school. The school says, no, I'm going to get sued. You may not come barefoot to school. Now, these are systems that is designed to make this child actually employable and not livable. Where we in the bush, we believe that's craziness. That child must fall, play with mud, pick up germs, eat insects, whatever. Just let that child be a child. But in that, the adults are there guiding this child into a way of life. School don't do that. The teacher is stressed out by wages. She's paying attention to who in the class.
I have got such a fat smile on my face listening to you. You know, what you're describing is, apart from anything else, it's kid heaven, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, I just went into the Kalahari now, and as a small research project for an afternoon, I took 3 children in skins and about 7 or 8 that's not in skins. That's like living in a normal society. Took them in the bush, and in few minutes of them seeing what's being explained to the children in skin, it didn't even take an hour. Then these other children wanted skins. They started tasting plants that your mom or your teacher would smack you for. They started tasting insects, doing things that society says don't. But then when we got back, these kids were very confused because they had to have supper and they full and they hardly ate. They're not tired and it's 8 o'clock at night. They didn't play. They were learning. It was one big game.
Play is a very important part of a Bushman child's life. And in this play, they mimic animals when parents are not there. They learn from the weaver bird. They learn from the badger. They learn from the springbok. They learn from the kudu. They learn from the ants. They learn from the wind. They learn from all of the animals if there is no animal, if there's no parents around. So if you have to look at a son play holistically, we never stop playing till age old. Whether it is dancing in circles and clapping hands or whether it is us just coming up with an indigenous game. The main thing is these are parented by nature, animals, insects, fauna and flora, as well as human beings. So play is the most important part of our knowledge system. It's where we learn nursery rhymes that is actually holding value to knowledge. It's an archiving system. We cannot really forget who we are due to play. And in these games we play, it's actually real life. From your playing, you enter a state of understanding that I'm hunting from 7 years old, 6 years old. We do not mimic the parents, we actually do from a very young age.
Now, that is very important. We have to take a child back into being a child. We do not have children in school. That's not children. The fact that that child has to wake up like it's a job and carry a bag that is 3 times his weight, come on. That's not school. The Bushman children will survive longer than the normal society's children due to one fact: they are allowed to learn. And that's learning as you grow. Those children at school has a limited period of learning. Then they get to life and there's no life. It's a machine.
So we started out talking about ancestral knowledge in terms of things that one can put into the curriculum. But
Yes.
what you're saying is that there's really an ancestral knowledge about education itself and about how education itself needs to be taking place. And that maybe the system of desks and tests and teachers at the front with the blackboard, there's also something really profound that the San people can teach the rest of the world about what real education looks like.
That's perfectly correct. If you look at us doing like food planting in subsistence growing and workshopping communities to do agroecology, it's an outside classroom. It can never be workshopped inside.
Yeah.
It's an outside classroom, and that's why that human being is successful in growing the food versus the human being sitting in a workshop learning just the technical parts on a board, a slide passing by. That person is not successful in growing his food, whereas the person in the outside classroom is always successful and healthy. Now with children, it's exactly the same. You take a child on an excursion, that child is producing more on the excursion out there in the botanical garden, more happier. You can hear through the voices, the laughs, the jumps. Take the child back into the school. They are uniformed from clothing to mind. And now they learn to do that on their own now. That's the wrong part.
Yeah. What advice would you have for all parents, given that if you think about it, when every single one of us takes our ancestry back far enough, the San way of living is actually in our DNA. What
All
advice do
people
you
are
have for
San.
modern parents now?
All people are San. You have it encoded in your DNA. All people are San. It's where we all started. And in that, for a parent to look at their child and not say that this child should learn outdoors, then there's something wrong with you. A child should not go from school home. Take your child to a park. Take your child to a botanical garden, not to a library or museum. And that is what parents are doing. They're taking the child from one square into another square. No, spend more time outside. That is what I would tell a parent. If you don't know your indigenous heritage or your tradition, it's okay. You can buy a book, you can have an app, but go outside. And that is what parents should be doing with their children. It minimizes medical expenses, it minimizes sickness. The child sleeps on time after that, eats fabulously after that. So why wouldn't you want to take your child more outside? Modern parents should take their children outside. You all are losing the spaces due to you all not using the spaces. Parks are being abandoned by municipalities and governments only because you all are not using these spaces. And the complaint is it looks ugly, then go fix it. Take your child with you. So that's my advice for these people. If they really would like to be something to their children, be the natural parent. Go out there.